Still a big debate around the sex offenders register and whether it will be made public. The Information Regulator said it was not clear that it would be legal to publish the document. It contains the names of people who've been convicted of sexual crimes. It was going to be released, but the regulator said the Protection of Personal Information Act may make it perhaps difficult or illegal to do so. Nobuntu Hlazo-Webster is the co-founder of Build One South Africa, represents the party in the Gauteng legislature. Nobuntu, good morning to you. You've been campaigning for this information to be released. Do you believe it's still legal to release this information under the Protection of Personal Information Act?
So, good morning, Stephen, and thank you so much for having me. So, absolutely, we do believe that there is a warrant for the information to be released. Of course, we know that there are various processes, legal processes that need to take place, and there are tests. It has to pass the test of constitutionality and legality. But absolutely, it must be made public. And even before the date that we had as a deadline that the minister had given for it to be made public, I had written, and I'm at the National Assembly, not at the Gauteng legislature. So I'm at National Assembly in Parliament, and I had written through Parliament to the minister to ask various questions. And this was to ascertain whether the department was, in fact, making sure that once it's released, it will pass the test of constitutionality and legality.
Sorry about the mistake. Thanks for the clarification. So what information would be released? Would it just be a person's name, or would it be more than that?
So this is what we have specifically asked, and this is the information that we want to have, because when the minister made the announcement, there wasn't much detail in terms of what would be there. So some of the questions I had asked were, what will the accessibility look like? Will it be accessible online? Will it be accessible at police stations? Will it be both? Will it be others? How will it be accessible? But what it should do when you look at and what we've been calling for, and also what you look at when you look at other references from other countries and other states, what it should do is that, yes, absolutely, it should give the name and surname of a person, the identity of a person, as well as the offense for which they were convicted. That is what we're looking for. At this point, it's not clear to determine what exactly it would look like. And in fact, at this point, we're even more concerned with the fact that with it having been not published, and with the minister having not started processes of making sure that it will ultimately pass that test of constitutionality, we now don't have access to it and what it looks like and what is there and the number of convicted offenders that are actually there. And so we've then applied, we've taken it upon ourselves to do a PAIA application so that we have access to that register ourselves.
Okay, so there are various things at play here. There are many people in South Africa who share the same names. Even if you have more than two names, you might share your name with someone else. It happens many, many times. I'm sure we can just Google Home Affairs ID mistake and we'll find some of those examples. So that would mean then you would need to know more about a person. And doesn't that take us into quite dangerous territory? I mean, if we were to know the address of someone who had been convicted of such an offence, it could lead to vigilante justice. And last year, over 1,000 people lost their lives due to vigilante justice in South Africa.
So the reality is that in the same way that we're calling on this for the protection of victims, we're calling on this actually, and part of what we are working towards and have been calling towards is an amendment of the Sexual Offences and Related Matters Act so that it is legal for this register to be made public. So in the same way that would be so that victims and potential victims are protected, there are laws that protect against vigilantism in this country. Vigilantism is not legal. And so there are laws that protect against that. And there would have to be education around that, but also more than anything, any offender who then has that kind of experience is protected by the law and can take steps as per the protection of the law in order for that to not happen, and steps against anybody who attempts any such thing.
I mean, in the year 2000, a British newspaper called News of the World, it no longer exists, started publishing names of people who had been convicted of acts involving paedophilia, and it led to mob violence. People had to be moved, people were attacked. That is what will happen. You can talk about protection of the law, Nobuntu, but we all know that, unfortunately, the rule of law is not as strong as it should be. So this is one of those quite difficult situations. Someone who has been convicted of such an offence should not be working with children, should have to declare it on their CV, etc., shouldn't be allowed to lie to the community that they live in. If you make this information public, you'll make them very vulnerable.
The reality is that currently, children and women in this country are very vulnerable. And that's the reality. We have the highest rates of recidivism in this country. 9 out of 10 convicted sexual offenders are repeat offenders in this country. It was reported towards the end of 2024 that there's a general practitioner operating in the Eastern Cape next to a school who has been twice convicted, who had then now perpetrated another offense and was continuing to practice. And people were sending their children there. Women were going there without knowing that this is an offender. And so one of the biggest issues in this country when it comes to gender-based violence is the repeat offenses that happen. And this is one way for us to be able to protect ourselves, protect our children, make sure that we protect our communities. And also, this is not something that's never been done before. In the state of Florida, for instance, it is done. And actually what then happens is someone is on that register for a particular period of time after, depending on what the offense was, after a certain period of time, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, they are able to then apply to be removed from that register. And they have to be able to prove that they've taken steps for rehabilitation and have not been convicted since then. Those are the types of things that are also rehabilitative in many ways as well. But more than that, it's proven to be a deterrent for even first-time offenders who then are looking to offend for the first time. We actually have a pandemic, we actually have a crisis, and we can't skirt around the issue. And we can't pretend that this is not a country where we have one of the highest rates of femicide, of violence against children, and of gender-based violence in the world. We can't pretend that's not the case. And we actually have to take the steps to be able to really move towards a prevention mode more than the steps that we've been taking, which are post facto.
So, Nobuntu, I mean, could there be another way to approach this, which would be to say, so we have the sexual offences register, fine. It should be that there should be, I presume, let me make this proposal to you, that there should be a database somewhere online where you should be able to see all of the convictions that anyone may have. You'll be able to search Stephen Grootes, burglary, is there a conviction? And that would sort of be a different way of looking at things. It wouldn't be one document, it would be a sort of live database. At the moment, if you think that someone, if you're suspicious about someone and they were convicted in a case that attracted media attention, you could probably find out the information that you're looking for. Most cases, though, don't attract that kind of media attention, so you bluntly wouldn't get any Google hits. But should there be some sort of court database of convictions that wouldn't just be about sexual offences? That would be part of it, sure, but there'll be other information there too.
The focus at this point is about sexual offences, really, because if you're someone, for instance, that is wanting to hire people in your workplace, there are various processes that you can take in order to find out whether they don't have other convictions. Those are expensive, granted. It's processes that cost money and take time, granted. But we are specifically speaking about protection against sexual acts. And now this is for individuals, not necessarily about institutions. It's for individuals. It's about people who are coaching your kids. It's about people who are in community organizations, who are in churches that have access to your children, have some sort of authority over your children. There is data that about 16,000 educators in this country have been convicted of various offenses, among them rape. So it is that kind of very sensitive issue that speaks directly to the safety of the person, of a child, of a woman, but of also even of men, because we also often leave out the fact that there's various acts of sodomizing that take place as well, and that are convicted as well. So at this point, it has to be about this particular issue and about clamping down on the issue of gender-based violence.
Nobuntu Hlazo-Webster, thank you. Co-founder of BOSA and a member of parliament for that party in the National Assembly. Nobuntu, thank you.